Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. Well, summer is here, and it's a week into free agency, and most of the players have been signed. There are a few situations that will rectify themselves as we go on. A lot of some restricted free agents with arb rights. A few other situations we'll discuss throughout the week. But we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So, can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm going to be in the corner of Mike now. And for this year's MLB All-Star game, I'm only watching the Home Run Derby, and I'll tell you why. Couple things. First thing is, it's pretty obvious Francisco Lindor should be an All-Star, right? It's not even close. But he's better than Ellie De La Cruz. And Trey Turner, while he got voted in, he can't even, he's not even qualified to even hit for the batting title yet, because he's 168 at bats, too shy. But he got voted in. Fine. Mm-hmm. The problem that I have now is the way Pete Alonso became an All-Star. So Pete Alonso, they asked him, "Hey, Pete, do you want to be in Home Run Derby?" Because, he's won it 3 times. And he's like, "No, not unless I'm an All-Star." So commissioner calls up, "You're an All-Star, Pete." Okay. Well, what does that do for Francisco Lindor? You just screwed your teammate who's having a better year than you. Pete's the 15th best home run hitter in baseball right now. I get it. You put him in Home Run Derby, he might win. But I don't think that was a great teammate move, and it maybe is a foreshadowing of what's to come with him and Scott Boras. And then we could say he's an All-Star for, the X amount of time and put it all on that resume and get paid more somewhere else. But it's a move that does not look good for him. He could say he's doing it for the Mets fans, okay, but he's not doing it for, the Mets players, because I'm sure Lindor is not thrilled.
Jan.
So, a couple of things. So, first of all, one small correction. He's only won it twice so far. If he wins it this time, it'll be the third time.
Oh, yeah.
Griffey. He's going for the third time. No disagreement about Lindor being in. I'll also argue with you, if you want to go, Nemo should probably be in over Lindor, possibly, given the kind of year Nemo's had. So, if Mookie Betts doesn't end up playing, which clearly he's not going to, it's possible one of the two will replace him. I don't have a problem with De La Cruz. He's got an 804 ops. He's got 4.
Uh-oh.
I can agree with you with Turner, but as you said, he got voted in. Not much you can do about that. But look, I have a bigger problem. Look, I'm into love Alonso, but I have a bigger problem where Christian Walker doesn't get in because he doesn't want to do the Home Run Derby, and Alonso does get in, right? Walker's had a better year than Alonso across the board in every single metric, and he should be in also. So if you're going to choose if one of the Mets have to go, I could prove Nemo or Lindor. But I think Walker kind of ends up getting screwed because he didn't want to do the Home Run Derby and is not a big enough name to actually be in the Home Run Derby this year.
Yeah, I reiterate my stance that the 2 worst times of the year in terms of sports is the Major League All-Star break, because nothing else is going on. There are no other sports going on. Unless, I don't know if the European soccer will be going on at that point. I think the Euro Cup and Copa America will be over by then. And the All-Star break, the NHL, NBA All-Star break, which I think usually is now happening. Now, this year, there is no All-Star break because of the 4 nations. So, but I don't know how I feel about that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it'll be better. It'll be better than the All-Star game, because the All-Star game is completely meaningless. But my issue with the 4 nations is that obviously they're doing it the year before the Olympics, so everybody's going to go there who wants to be on the Olympic team. Right. So they're not going to be any players that sort of beg off because they don't want to get hurt in a meaningless tournament. But you're talking about 2 months before the playoffs, and God forbid if somebody does get hurt.
That's in the Olympics, though. We saw John Tavares is the lone example. So what?
Yeah. But that's a cautionary tale. So, I mean,
it's one guy in a million games.
I got a bigger issue where it's not a broad-based representative and they're just doing a small sample as opposed to including the other countries. That's my bigger issue.
Yeah, we've brought that up many times, but it's just beating a dead horse. So I'm with you on that, though. Absolutely.
I thought Russ was going to go. He's not watching the game because he thought the American League jerseys were god awful looking.
Well, they are.
That's beside the point. I just want to buy one. That's fine. Not that I would ever wear an American League jersey. I can't ever see why I would. But back in the day, I would have worn a Seaver, I suppose. That's it.
But I saw the story about the pitcher from Pittsburgh, the phenom. Is it Skeens? Skeens?
Yeah.
That there's the campaign for him to be, and he's only pitched I think 56 innings.
Yeah.
But he's been striking out everybody. So
put him in. You might as well, because it's clear that if the commissioner just picks up the phone, it doesn't matter about the rest of it.
Yeah, that's true. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, July 8th, 2024.
Jan Levine, apologies for the connection issues here.
Russ Cohen from sportsology.com.
Oh, no NHL draft? Okay, that's because it's 11.
NHLDraftBuzz.com too.
It's 11 months away, so screw that website.
It goes all year, folks.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, we talked about it on Off the Post yesterday, but since we haven't had a show, we didn't have a show on Friday, and a significant trade occurred. We'll start with that. The Buffalo Sabres dealt one of their top prospects in Matthew Savoie to the Edmonton Oilers for center Ryan McLeod and a minor leaguer Tyler Tullio. Russ, over the weekend, really people have come, not to say that we were like the original people in terms of this point of view on this deal, but this deal has come under a lot of criticism over the weekend, simply because Ryan McLeod is a useful bottom six center. He's maybe he's a good third liner, maybe a great fourth liner. But the Sabres gave up a top 10 pick who has done nothing but score like crazy in the Western Hockey League, who has played a grand total of, I think, 8 AHL games, 2 playoff games, and 6 regular season games, and 1 NHL game. And the justification for this move is, well, the Sabres are really deep in prospects, and they're not so sure about Savoie's durability. Those just sound to me excuses that they're making excuses in case this deal in a couple of years turns out to be a crap sandwich.
Yeah, if Matt Savoie were 6 foot, 6'1", they wouldn't be bringing up durability. That's one thing. If Matt Savoie wasn't draft +2 because of an injury, they wouldn't be bringing him up. But they are, because they feel like using that excuse. Every excuse gets thrown at a guy. Go ahead. Because
of an injury, and because he was born one day too late to play in the American Hockey League. Otherwise, he would have been in the AHL last year.
So it's just so much easier to make up these excuses for the smaller player and just say, we got too many of those guys. And it's like, okay, so you're going to get a guy where you get a known quantity. Like I said, Mike, and I stand by my math. Math is not my strong suit. That Buffalo was like something like 2.95, 2.98 goals per game last year. And their defense has tightened up, sure. And it started to tighten up last year, as you pointed out. And I still don't see how it's getting over 3. And if it doesn't get over 3, they're going to struggle to make the playoffs. And this doesn't really help that. If you got him to further get better defensively, okay, but you already were getting better defensively. And I'm sure Lindy will let up on the reins on some of the players and maybe try and get some offense that way. But you didn't really get a scorer here. And that's my big problem with the trade. Had you got a guy who, is a 25-goal scorer, that's fine, because when things go right for Matt Savoie, he could be a 20 to 25-goal scorer, a 75 to 80-point guy. And we don't know when that's going to happen. Everybody's got a different development curve. But all I can tell you is we know what Ryan McLeod is.
Yeah, Jan, that's the issue here that I at first looked at it. I mean, McLeod is 24 years old. He's making $2.1 million. He scored a career-high 12 goals last year. Savoie has not played any significant time as a pro. Now, the motivation here from the Sabres is clear. They need to win, and they need to make the playoffs this year, or a lot of people are losing their jobs. And, okay, that's all fine and good, but in terms of asset management, this is really bad because it's an unknown what Savoy is, but we know what McLeod is, and McLeod is not great. He's okay, but he's not great. And you potentially gave up somebody good to great in this deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two things that came to mind when they first made the deal was, first of all, you could have found a Ryan McLeod type out in free agency and not had to have given up an asset in order to get him. You're not getting anything that moves the needle so much. He'll help them a little, but you could have gotten a similar asset in free agency and not parted with anybody. And I heard one person refer to the deal as they think it's going to end up like a Martin Erat Lotta type trade down the road, where I don't know whether or not it's going to end up as that big of a variant, but you could end up with that kind of a trade given the possible upside of Savoy. I mean, it's just, as you said, very poor asset management. It smacks also to a certain extent of desperation because you're looking to improve a weakness on your team, which they've done. But is that weakness sufficient enough to warrant giving up the level of prospect in Savoy, even though he's a little bit undersized? And look, he's moving to an organization where offense certainly is king, right? As we've seen that from Edmonton. That's one of those things. Now, Edmonton is really deep, and he may not get a shot there. But if he plays well, you can probably bet your bottom dollar that if they flip him, they're going to flip him for a much better kind of asset than a Ryan McLeod type.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the Martin Erat for Philip Forsberg comparison. The other one I heard, and of course this will make Leaf fans shudder, is Tuukka Rask for Andrew Raycroft, because you're trading a first-round pick who was known to be, at that point, he's the best goaltender, not in the NHL. That was the chatter. And they traded him for a guy who had been a Rookie of the Year winner, I believe Raycroft was, but had soured since his rookie year and, was never as good as he was as a rookie. So it was a bad deal, and it turned out to be worse because
I just want to point out, I sounded the alarm when the Forsberg trade went down.
Yes,
I was like, what the hell are you doing?
I think everybody did.
But the thing was, I got it. Like, Erat was Ovechkin's friend. Great. Well, guess what? He didn't do you any favors, and especially not in the playoffs. So, yeah, that was crazy. Now, this I don't think will be to that degree.
No.
But it could still be a very bad outfit.
Yeah. So, the other thing, and then we'll get off the Sabres page. The other thing here is, I mean, this may be a commentary, and I wrote about this at the Hockey News today. This may be a commentary on what they think about Peyton Krebs, because in free agency, they added Beck Malenstein from the Capitals. They traded a second-round pick for him. He's 6'3", 6'4", decent speed, good defensively, good face-off guy, but he's fourth liner, and he had never played a full season in the NHL until last year, and he was a Spencer Carberry sort of reclamation project with the Caps. So they traded a second-round pick for him, and they're going to sign him. So that's their fourth-line center. They added Sam Lafferty, who can play center, but I think he's more effective as a wing. Now they've traded for
a scoring guy. He's also another guy. Neither of these guys are going to score for them. Who's scoring for them?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Lafferty's a 10 to 12 goal scorer. Malenstein's probably less than 10 goals. You have not replaced the 24 goals that you lost when you bought out Skinner. And I think Sabres fans were fine with buying out Skinner if they replaced him with somebody in the top six, like everybody said that was going to happen. But they've gone through a week of free agency. Nothing, they didn't get a top six guy unless you think Jason Zucker is going to step into the top six, which I don't think is the plan. They may promote from inside, meaning move Zach Benson or move Jack Quinn into the top six. But, those are
pressure on them when it's
right. One's a 19-year-old. The other one has never been able to stay healthy.
Right.
The other options are, trading for Nikolai Ehlers or trying to get Neckish from Carolina. Easier said than done. So, I mean,
how old's Peter Bondra? I know he could still shoot. I saw him shoot a couple of years ago. He's still pretty good.
Yeah, but he can't skate. He can't skate anymore.
Doesn't matter. Just put him in on the power play.
Oh, great! Just stand him in front of the net like a statue, and there you go.
He's as good as Olofsson. Like, what's the difference?
Okay, mark my words. I I think Victor Olofsson will score 20 goals with Vegas this year.
Yeah, he might. And that's another person that I wanted to bring up, so I did, to say, where's the offense? You were quick to get rid of these guys, and you didn't replace the offense.
Well, and that's the funny thing here is, yes, the Sabres improved defensively last year. They cut their goals against by 50 goals. They also cut their offense by 50 goals. They were down the same amount of goals offensively as they were defensively. Now they think, well, Thompson had an off year and Cousins had an off year and Tuck had an off year. Maybe they didn't have off years. Maybe what they did last year was what they really are, and what they did 2 years ago isn't. So, I mean, that will be proved out by what's going to happen this year. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the case, but there is a school of thought that, well, they're going to bounce back. Maybe the year that Thompson scored 47 is the outlier, and not the year when he scored less than 28 or 29 goals. So anyway, okay. Let's see here. Sorry. Just putting somebody in a timeout because he's making stupid comments in the chat. Okay, so I wrote today on Hockey Buzz the two narratives that seem to be, the stories that will get us through the summer. Besides Neckish, besides rumors about Ehlers, are the Mitch Marner situation, which we won't go into today because we've talked about it way too much.
Is there a situation?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And the Leon Draisaitl contract situation. Now he's same as Marner, a year away from unrestricted free agency. Obviously, in this instance, the team that has him wants to sign him. In Toronto, we don't know if that's the case. They've just been very complimentary about Marner, but they're not saying we want to sign him to an extension. We want to keep him. They're not saying anything. Whereas Edmonton, I think they're saying that, but it's a question now of how much. And here's the issue, because it's staggered here where Draisaitl is eligible to sign a contract extension as of July 1st. He's got a no-move clause. The speculation is he wants to stay in Edmonton. But he's coming off an 8-year deal, last year of the 8-year deal, and he was dramatically underpaid on that deal. It was a great deal for Edmonton. They gave him $8.5 million times 8 years when he had scored, I think, less than 30. And in the last 5 seasons, 4 of those 5, he scored 40 goals or more. And the only year he didn't was the COVID shortened 56 game schedule, the Canadian division. And even in the season that it was shortened by COVID, the shutdown, he had scored for over 40. So he's one of the best scorers in the league. Now, all things being equal, after being paid $8.5 million, being 28 years old, he should rightly want to be the highest paid player in the NHL. And now maybe that's not justified, but scoring 50, 55, 51, 40 some odd, getting to a Stanley Cup final is still in his prime. You would think Edmonton would want to do that. But you've got McDavid coming up in 2 years, eligible to sign an extension July 1st of next year. And I do think that what happens with Draisaitl is an indicator of what could happen with McDavid. And I'll lay it out how I think, and then we'll go back and forth on this. If Draisaitl says, I want to be the highest paid player in the NHL, and that means more than 13 and a quarter on an 8-year deal, or even on a shorter term deal, then you're going to have a situation where the Oilers are going to end up being the Western version of the Maple Leafs, because they'll have to sign McDavid for more than that to make him the highest paid player in the league. And that would mean 14 and a half with the expanding cap times 8 years. He'll be, I believe, 28 at that point. So that would be for the balance of his career. But then they have to sign Evan Bouchard, one of the best defensemen in the league. He's turned out to be. that's probably going to be 9.5, 10. If they're already paying Darnell Nurse 9.5, so now they're going to be paying Bouchard 10 or something close to 10.
Something close, maybe even the same number.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about if it plays out that way, between $27 and $28 million for 2 forwards and an extra 18 to 20 for 2 defensemen. That's more than 50% of your cap. Again, you use the example of Toronto. When you're paying 50% of your cap to 4 players, it doesn't work. Even if it's McDavid and Draisaitl.
I mean, it hasn't worked to date, but the cap will eventually get to a point where it might work. I would say that what you're saying is correct. What I do think will happen is McDavid and Draisaitl will get together and they'll have like a 4-year deal together and both make the same amount. Like if it's 12.2, 12.3, get to the edge there, get what they can, knowing there's another contract down the line, give that last go because they've gotten close here. But if you see that, Draisaitl signing for 8 years, then I think McDavid's gone.
Yeah, the only thing about the short-term deal that I recognized after we discussed this is that if they sign 4-year deals, McDavid will be 32 at the end of it, and Draisaitl will be 31. 30, no, 30. He'll be 32. It'll be staggered by a year, but they'll both be 32 when those deals come up.
They're still pretty desirable players, though.
I'm not saying they're not, but they're not getting 8 years.
No, but I don't think they need to.
No, but I think what I'm saying is if they get the 8-year deal now, that's the last contract they sign. If they sign a 4-year deal, then the last contract they sign is probably another 4-year deal. And I don't know if their negotiating stance will be as strong in 4 years.
I'll give you another bold one. Just because he comes up first, Draisaitl gets his 8-year deal.
Yeah.
And McDavid goes, I'll go on a 1-year deal. Give it one more go. That's it.
That's awful risky. I don't think anybody does that.
Nobody usually does it, but someone like McDavid can because
he can, but I don't know if
he's going to be reasonably assured that nothing's going to happen to him.
I'll just say this. His agency, which is Orr Wasserman, and he has the same agent as Matthews. I think it's Judd Moldaver.
Yeah.
They're not taking a 1-year deal. No way.
No, probably not. But the player could do it.
The player could do it, but there's no earthly reason for him to do it.
If he wants to win in Edmonton, he might, but he just may not want to stay there long term because he might say, "Hey, this is it. I'm giving you Edmonton, the fans, the management. This is my 2-minute warning.
Well,
1 year to win this."
Well, and that's the other thing that I brought up is the fact that, say for example, Draisaitl signs the deal and he's the highest paid player in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And next July, it gets to July 1st, and McDavid says, "Why don't I just play the contract out and see where things go from here?"
Yeah, he could do that.
He could do that, but the thing is that if you're the Edmonton Oilers. Now, again, McDavid has a no-move clause. Doesn't this play out like Marner 2.0? Doesn't this play out, well, okay, if we know that there's a risk that you're going to walk away for nothing. Okay, hold on a second. This guy, you're being banned forever, so eat me.
I would say it like this. This is different because...
Well, let me just finish because I had to ban that guy. What I'm saying is, Edmonton next July, with the prospect of McDavid leaving for nothing in free agency the following year, wouldn't this play out potentially like Gretzky back in the 90s where we need to trade him and get something because our franchise will never recover if we don't trade him for as much as we can before he leaves for nothing? And maybe they can trade him to the place that he wants to go, or maybe he'll go someplace for 1 year. But it's incumbent.
He chooses not to go anywhere. He can walk himself to free agency. The Oilers can't do anything about it. And
like Marner.
And I don't think the fans would be mad at him. honestly, I don't think the fans would be mad. He's given everything he can to their organization. So I think, it's a situation where, yes, you would hope to get assets for him, but if there's really no place that he wants to go because he just wants to try and finish out that season and try and win, then he's just going to do that. He might say that those kinds of guys are different, Mike, and this is a different era. There was reasons why Gretzky got traded. Money was a big part of it.
Yeah.
He didn't have any money. Edmonton's not having any trouble money-wise. So the hope would be, hey, we'll let McDavid do this. We win the cup, we can get him back then because I think he'll want to win another. But, it's a risk either way, but he might just say, this is the way I'm going to do it. I've set myself up. I am not going to accept the trade. I'm playing out this season. Let's go win a cup. He could do that.
He has given up. He has given everything to the organization, but I would say the organization has not given up everything for him. And that's like now only in the last couple of years have they really invested in, getting Ekholm, adding depth up front. But previous to that, they made stupid signings like Jack Campbell. And they spent their money unwisely, like Darnell Nurse at $9.5. And I like Darnell Nurse, but he's not a $9.5 million defenseman. So they've spent stupid money in stupid places.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I'm maybe not this year because they're coming off, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, and how much closer can you get than that? But if they take a step back and then he's walking 1 year until free agency, he may want to say, okay, I'll stick around for the year because I'm contractually obligated to. But after that, I need to see what else is out there.
Yeah, all those things are possible. I think Draisaitl's staying though. I've said it before and I'll say it again.
Now, the third name out there there was some hubbub being generated about it was Sidney Crosby, but there are sort of scattered reports coming out. I think there was a report in The Athletic and a few others coming out of Pittsburgh.
Bob Ross had some sources.
Yeah,
well.
that was the Athletic's piece.
Okay.
But that the two sides are on the same page and that they think that a deal will get done. Now, the curious thing I'm wondering is Malkin took less, Letang took less, Crosby took less 8 years ago. He took 8.7. Again, this is a guy. This is like Stamkos, and I don't think it's going to play out like Stamkos, but this is like Stamkos. Okay, I took a discount to stay 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe money is not the biggest motivation to all these guys, but respect is. And clearly, from what happened with Stamkos in Tampa Bay, there was a lack of respect being put towards arguably their best or one of their most important players in franchise history. And he decided because of that, he went to Nashville. Mm-hmm. I think Pittsburgh is recognizing that Sidney Crosby is the most important player in the franchise's history next to Mario Lemieux. And that means you got to pay this guy.
Yeah, there's sacrifices to be made. You got to make him happy salary-wise. He's like another coach for you. He's hopefully going to usher in the next generation when young players go there and Crosby works with him, talks to him, all that. So, yeah, he's everything to that franchise. He's never going to leave there, and he might be a part of them going forward. So, yeah, you have to do what you have to do with that.
Yeah. It'll be curious. He's making 8.7. Even if it's, and I believe he's over 35. So, is it going to be, there is a risk in giving him a multi-year deal. Is it going to be one of these deals where like Pavelski, where he gets a 1-year deal every year
No, I think it'll be a 3-year deal for a certain amount of money. And that's that.
Yeah. Couple other things, and then we'll cut it short and we'll come back on Wednesday and Friday. the news coming out of Washington is that Chris Patrick is being named the new general manager of the team. Like a lot of teams, all these teams are adding a level of stratification to their management group. It's like president of hockey operations and general manager. And really, in a lot of these instances, the general manager is like the head assistant GM, and the president of hockey operations is the GM because he's retaining all the control. And in this instance, Chris Patrick, who is the cousin of Craig Patrick, who's been in the organization for I think 6 or 7 years,
and a pretty good, GM himself.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Yeah, Craig, sure.
Craig, yeah, but this is Chris.
Craig is. Craig.
Oh, yeah.
Had discussions with him.
No doubt. But Chris Patrick is going to be named the general manager. Brian McClellan is going to remain president of and oversee all facets of hockey operations. So he's giving up nothing. It's just they're giving Chris Patrick a title.
Well, here's what he's done. He was a pro scout from 2010 to 2015. Then director of hockey ops, then back to pro scouting, then director of player personnel from 2016 to 2021, assistant GM for the last 3 years. Now he's GM. Makes sense.
And what this could
progression.
And what this could be is, maybe they got feelers on him in terms of, general manager in other organizations, and they decided, okay, no, we're gonna give you a bump. And in that instance, they keep him in the fold.
And this is a lifetime guy with them. So
and
he's from Princeton. I remember him when he played for Princeton. So this is a smart guy. Caps are doing good things. If I were a fan, I'd feel like I'm in good hands. And they just added a layer.
Yeah, and the other bit of news, and we heard it, I think, late last week about the Florida Panthers with their going to broadcast TV and an online app on their website for their broadcast. The further fallout from the Bally's, was it Diamond Sports, I believe it was, bankruptcy. The Dallas Stars are signing on with a streaming service for free regional broadcasts to fans. So
it's a bad thing for the team. Because
but this is going to affect hockey related revenue.
Absolutely. Like we were told the whole time, if you remember, Mike, oh, don't worry, these things will work themselves out. No, they're not. They just now all Dallas can hope to do is get some sort of advertising revenue out of it. But there's nobody's paying for the stream, nobody's paying for the service like they would on a cable regional network or something else. There's none of that extra cheddar coming to you. And the Florida's doing the same thing. We're probably going to see a few more teams having to do the same thing because they're not going to hide the broadcast from fans. That's even worse. But they're just not going to make the amount of money they could make.
Yeah, Chico's bail bonds. I don't know how much they pay for advertising. The other thing was, and I can't remember who reported this, but that there is an agreement.
White House landscaping, right?
I'm sorry?
Or White House landscaping, right?
Yes. Or oh God, what was it? City Morgue. You stab them, we slap them. That was the other one. No, there was an announcement made over the weekend that Utah there's an agreement in place for a $900 million upgrade of the Delta Center.
Okay.
So instead of building a new arena, they're going to dramatically remodel the existing arena, which is fine. But along with it is a 30-year agreement for them not to play any home games other than in Utah, other than in that building. So
it's like an MSG deal. It's
yes.
Like, we're going to give you this money, and now you're bound to this. So even if they play an outdoor game, they're going to have to be the road team.
Well, they might get. I was going to say they might get special dispensation, but they could also get around that by being the road team. Yes,
that's what they'll have to do. I think it's fine. I mean, if that's how you're getting your money to upgrade your building for the fans and everything else, fine. Although, we've learned these things are not super ironclad. Teams have broken leases before. It's not easy, but it's happened. But right now, you don't worry about that. I think that's fine to do.
Yeah, I mean, organizations find their way out of leases, but when you're talking about with, the state of Utah or the city of Salt Lake, and you're talking about a significant amount, like $900 million. Right,
it's almost $1 billion.
Almost $1 billion for a hockey arena. Now, a hockey and basketball arena.
Right.
The municipalities do their due diligence to make sure that this is ironclad, that you can't get out of it. I know that in Buffalo, when the state agreed to basically foot the bill for $900 million or $1.2 billion or whatever it was for the new stadium, that a 30-year lease, an ironclad 30-year lease was part of this. You can't go anywhere. You can't take this team, even if it's sold to somebody else. You can't take this team out of Buffalo.
Otherwise, John Bon Jovi wants it.
Yeah, well, his music sucks, and so does he. Anyway, okay, sorry about that. We'll end the show on that high note. We'll be back on Wednesday with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast for the
love a bad name.
For the departed Jan Levine and for Russ Cohen. I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.